Hello and good evening. It's Trisha here with just a photo of the bag at the moment. So let me see, I'm just finding it. There we go. There we are. Right, so, oops, wrong way. There we go. Oh, that's it. Right, let's have a look. Oh, goodness gracious me. Right, I can see that some of you are coming on. I can't see any comments as yet, but who knows? Who knows? So, firstly, I apologise. There we are. No, I can't see anything as yet. Let's see if there's anything on there. No, it tells me lots of people are watching. But apologies for being late. But my daughter is in Spain at the moment, and she rang me just to keep me up to date and knowing that they're well. So I couldn't really do much other than wait until she was finished. So just noticed my needle has come unthreaded. So just to make life difficult, it's not going in the first time, but it has now. So that is perfect. Okay, so you may have seen already in the group, I have put a picture. Oh, that's better. Oh, there, I can see lots now. Hello, Sue. Hello, Kerry. Hello, Judy. Hello, Alison. Elaine, Sue, Christine, Vanessa, Marilyn, and Leslie. Right, yes. So here is our banana slouch bag. Now, it is it's something that has been about for some while. Oh, for goodness sake. I've just clicked it off. It has been about for some while, but, and I did try to make one, probably a year ago, and it didn't work out very well at all. So, a couple of days ago, I thought, I know what we'll do. We'll have a go at the banana bag. And it's really a nice, simple make. So it has that banana-like shape, if you like, and nice little tabs at the side, and hopefully it's all going to come together really, really well. But a lot of room. I have got some balls of yarn in there at the moment just to pad it out, and it's got an internal pocket, and then of course we've got the zip across the top. Okay, so who's saying good evening? Good evening. Let's see if there's more. Oh, there are more. So there's Sandra and Jen and Susan and Elaine and Carolyn now. That's lovely. So yes, hello Marion. I thought I would, gosh, it's so much slower than actually what I'm doing. I'm watching it. Hi, Margaret. I'm watching it on the iPad and filming with the phone, just so I can get it onto, hello Jane, I can get it onto my little stand so that you can see everything that's going on. So you will have noticed I have already put there's Pollyanne, hello. Oh no. All best wishes to him, Pollyanne. Oh, yes. Just take your mind off things and watch along tonight. Hello, Bev. Hope you're well. And who else was there as well? And Patricia, hello. And Virginia. Okay, so yes. So I'm going to show you how to make one of these. And it is surprisingly easy, actually. I made another one. This one was my first one. And as you can see, I've put a little tag on there. I don't know, it just lifts it a little bit by putting something additional. So we've got it in the turquoise, which was my first one. And then this morning I made the black one from some Moda Boudoir. I was thinking about faux leather, but then I thought not all of you will perhaps get on with faux leather or have got some in your stash. But yes, I've made this black one, which is, well, it's dark grey with black design on it. And it's really quite, hello Pippa, it's really quite subtle actually. And again, we have the pocket inside as well, and a nice coordinating fabric for the lining. I've really gone to town on putting nice linings in the bags as well. But a nice, I think you'll find it a nice pleasant make. So I have put kits on the website. You have all got far too much fabric. Hello Shirley, and hello Judith. So you won't be needing any kits, but for those of you that might like a kit, they're there for you anyway. And there's a discount code. So please have a look in the group to see what that discount code is, and it brings it down to a very reasonable price. So I have uploaded the PDF into the files. There is a template and there are full instructions as I usually do. So the template, what you will get is it's a quarter circle basically, and we are going to be working with half circles. Good evening, Joanne. So because this is very close to the size of an A4 sheet, hello Yvonne, what you will need to do, it may chop off a side, you know, I don't know what your printer's going to do, but it does measure 8 inches along the bottom and 8 inches up the side. And what you'll need to do, it says place on fold, so you will need to add another piece of paper to it so that you can double it up. So that will be your shape, a whole semicircle. So it will measure along the straight edge 16 inches. To be quite honest, if it's a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger, you'll just have to increase or decrease the length of the zip, but that will be, it won't make any difference to it at all, because you will need to cut 2 pieces in your outer fabric, this shape, 2 pieces in your lining fabric, and 2 pieces in fusible fleece. I was going to try it with Thermolam, which you could use Thermolam as well, but I thought if I was going to use Thermolam, I would probably quilt it as well. So I'd put the Thermolam on the back of the outer fabric and then do some cross hatching or just even straight lines just to hold it all in place, and I think that would look rather nice as well. So on the same sheet for your template, as I say, it will come in just the quarter circle, but you will need to place on, or I tape another piece of paper to it, and then I cut around the edge so that when you open it out, you've got a full half circle. You can see this little shape taken out here. That is that shape there, which is for the little tabs which attach the handle to the main bag itself. And you'll need to cut 4 of those, and as usual to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So hello Liz, hello Hayes, hello Joanna. Oh, it keeps going off there. And hello Tony. Don't worry Tony, because I was late also, but I was dead on 22, which is quite good. Okay, so shall we get started? I think what I'm going to do to start off with, because I have a feeling that my bobbin thread is getting low. Oh, let's see. Perhaps we'll do, first of all, I'll do my first bit of stitching and then we'll change the bobbin there. So I have, first of all, I have already done, we will need a handle, a strap. So as the usual, I have my 4-inch width of fabric, which I folded in half, wrong sides together and pressed. Then I open one edge out, or both of the edges really, fold one edge to the centre, that crease line, and press. Then I press the other edge to the centre as well, and press. And then I fold it in half again and press. All I'm going to do now is top stitch along both sides, because I was a little bit slow in getting everything ready. So let's see if I can just pull this down just a little bit closer there. Right, so, and if I take that back a little bit, so all I'm going to be doing is top stitching along the edge and at fairly full speed as I usually do. So you could put a decorative stitch down here, or well, that is absolutely amazing because we haven't done one single stitch. Okay. It decided it wasn't going to pick up. So more haste, less speed, as they say. Let's see if I can pick that thread up. Oh, it's picked it up now. Fantastic. I nearly always pop the threads to the back. And take two. So here we go. I knew it didn't sound quite right as I was stitching. There is a different sound when the thread is not making its stitches. So that sounds so much better. Okay, so we'll just get down to the other end here. Now it would look a lot better if I'd got aubergine thread in the bobbin and on the top spool, but I haven't. I've got a dark grey which works beautifully on the majority. In fact, I've used the dark grey thread on all of the bags now, and it blends in or stands out where necessary. So let's just whiz along here as we do. You can see I've got my fingers around the strap, apart from when we get to the end there. There we go. So there I have my strap. And if I just get my scissors, I'm not going to chop, I'm going to chop most of the selvage off there, but not all of it. So all I've done is, and we'll chop a little bit off that end too, all I've done is made my strap, which we'll set aside for later. So the next thing we need to do is cut all of our pieces out. And as you can see, I have already fused the interfacing, the fusible fleece, to the back of my outer fabrics. So I love this fabric. I haven't used it anywhere near enough, and I thought it would look really nice in a banana slouch bag. So again, I have put a coordinating fabric for our lining to go with. Excuse me. And I've got two pieces, as you can see, which will be the lining of the bag. So the first thing I'm going to do, in the kits from the fabric, there is enough left over in the width of fabric to cut a pocket. Now I've cut the pocket 5 inches by 4, I think, and I've cut it on the fold. So I don't really need to do too much. So I'm just going to fold that over, and obviously one of my sides is going to be on the fold. So I'm going to start stitching from the fold, which I very rarely do, and pop that down. And I'm going to reverse at the beginning, and I should be turning it through this bit here. So I'm going to leave a little gap and start again, go up to the other side, bring that together nicely, and stitch along almost to the end, and just make sure that fold is nicely poked out. There we are. And then I'm going to just clip that little corner off, clip that corner and that one, hopefully not cutting my stitches. And then at one end, we can just turn this through to the right side. So let's just pop that through and push my fingers into those corner points, and then just get my little creaser, which I happen to have found, just to poke those corners out. And then we'll just press this. So rather than bringing the ironing board in, I'm just going to take it to the ironing board. I'm just going to, here's the gap, just pull those two edges together and they will line up, and I'm not going to close, oops, that wasn't very good. So I just poked that out. I'm not going to stitch across there because when I stitch it to the lining, it's going to close that gap at the same time. So let's just take that away just to give that a little press. If you want to top stitch along one or other of, it could be you could top stitch along the top here if you want to. Let's just cut that little thread or leave it as it is. So what am I going to do? I'll have that as my top, and I'll just stitch along here. So I'm actually closing the gap with some top stitching, and that is going to be the top of my bag. Just trim those little bits of thread off there. So then I'm going to take one of my lining pieces and I'm going to fold it in half just to make a little crease in the center there. Open it out, and then I can see that I can, there we go. Now because this fabric's got a stripe in it, I'm going to just line that up. I'm going to take it a little bit further down. So this is going to be our top edge where the zip is going. So I've got the opening is going to be at the top, and that's where I've done my top stitching. So I'm just going to pop a pin just to hold that in place. And I've placed my pocket, it's around about 1.5 inches below the top edge. So I'm going to stitch down this side, and then I'm going to change my bobbin because I don't want it running out at an inopportune moment. Okay, so that's gone around there, around the corner, and along the bottom of the pocket, and then up the other side. And when I get to the top of the pockets, I'm just going to reverse 2 or 3 stitches just to, I'll just clip that off as well, just to make sure that's nice and secure. If you want to put your mobile in that pocket, I would probably lower it a little bit more than I have there so that it doesn't poke out. But it's a smallish pocket, but it's a pocket. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is take one of our outer pieces here. And where has my zip gone? I've got to show you the zip, but I have got, here it is. Okay, so we have a zip. And what I should have done, first of all, with the zip, or what I'm going to do, because the zip is about the right length for the whole of the top, this piece here, this metal bit, I want to take it out. I am going to take my bobbin out. So just use something sort of sharp and pointy just to undo that little bit there. Just pull those little edges up because we want to take that bit out, as it could be when we are stitching our tabs on, it could be that you hit it. And I have done that before and it's broken the needle. So let's just see if I can pull that out carefully. So this is what we don't need. But just so that we don't open our zip inadvertently. Oh, let's see. There, that should be off now. Oh, just come out there. Right. There, that's gone now. So that little thing there, we don't want that. So because we've lost the end which stops that from unravelling, I am going to just stitch over here fairly close to the zip. I'm just going to reverse backwards and forwards just to secure that across there. The other end we will leave for the time being. Okay, so let me just change my bobbin before it runs out. Whoops, there we go. So I think there's a little bit more thread on this one. And I did want the top and bottom thread to be the same. Okay, so let's just re-thread that, pop it in, close it down, and pull that thread up. Then I know it's going to be stitching right from the beginning. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is put our zip with zipper pull facing down. And we want a little bit of excess zip at both ends. So I've got a little bit here, and that is about right. And at this other end, I've got a little bit here. So I am going to pin just to hold that there. And I'm going to open the zip a little bit. Now, if you want to pin across this whole edge, you can. But as you know, I like to keep lining it up as I go. So having pinned in one place, the zip edge, I'll let me put 2 in. Okay, so I'll put a little bit further down here. Because the next thing we need to do, and it doesn't matter which piece, but I'm going to take my lining piece with the pocket on, and I'm going to place it right sides together with the zip, and I'm going to line up those edges. So what I do find, and you probably will too, when you have the lining fabric on the top, quite often this edge stretches a little bit and your lining is too long. However, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to swivel it over this way, and I'm going to stitch along the top edge instead. So first of all, I am going to line up my lining fabric with the top of the zip there and put a pin just to hold that. And I'll do the same where that second pin is as well, and put a pin there. And so here is the rest of my zip, and although I've got it open at the moment, I will be, oops, I don't want to, I will do that up because it gives me a better, let's take that there. Right, so let's pull that zip along there and align that with our lining fabric, and then putting the outer fabric on the top. Okay, so put a pin just to hold that, and then I can place the rest of the zip along there like so. This is probably going to go terribly wrong, and then we'll put another pin at this end because I should be sewing from this end instead. So let's just turn that around, and whoops, I'm just lining up my pieces. Okay, so this lines up at that end, and let's put our pin back in there. So I've got the little bit of zip hanging over the edge there, and that looks pretty good. So as I say, this time I am stitching from the top. When it comes to stitching the other side, I'm not going to have that problem. So I am just checking on the zip lining up with the edge of the lining, and then I'm just popping the outer fabric on the top. Yes, we are stitching. Okay, so let's just pull that, and I can see that's all lining up, just like when we're doing patchwork actually. And what I'm getting is nothing is shifting, which is really good. So I'm just going to take that pin out. I may very well, or what I am going to do, where that zip pull is there, I'm actually going to, I'll take that pin out, I'm going to take the zip pull past my needle. So I've got the zip pull open now, and then I can just place that down. And as you can see, those two pieces line up really well. Okay, so There we have our zip enclosed. So we can just do that zip up now. And we can either go to the ironing board, and it's a good idea to press along the edge here so that we've pulled the whole of the lining away. Oops, didn't catch that. Look at that. So that has twisted back there. So it's a good job I looked at that. So let's just undo that just a little bit. My lining fabric just twisted back. So all I'm going to do is go back in there and stitch along where it should have done. Okay. Right, that's all done now. So all I was doing was finger pressing along there. And then I'm going to take the lining fabric underneath. Okay, so let's just swivel that round because we're going to top stitch along here now. So it is a good idea to go to the ironing board, but what I'm doing is I'm just pulling that lining fabric away from the zip, lining it up at this edge so you can see the lining fabric is directly below, and make sure all the lining is under here. So pressing very, very good. But as I say, I am just holding that with my 2 fingers so that I'm pulling the lining away from that zip edge. And then I'm going to top stitch along the edge here. So as I pull that out, my hand underneath is pulling the lining fabric away. So with one hand, I'm holding the top fabric and just pulling that away from the zip and stitching along there. And with the hand underneath, let's just smooth that away. And it means that my lining fabric then is coming away from the zip. And I'll show you behind just to show you that it is working. And I'm lining this edge under here. Let's see, that's a little bit slow coming. There we are. So let's just keep on stitching along here, right to the end there. Perhaps I should take it up just a little bit. Oh, so you can see a little bit more. There we are. Yeah, that's it. So I've got that all nicely stitched there. And then on the back, as you see, there's quite often if you don't make sure the fabric comes back, you'll have a little pleat of the lining fabric coming up here. But I've made that come up and this all lines up nicely here. So let's just flip that back. And what we need to do now is put our zip or our other outer piece on the top here. So let us get our other lining piece, outer fabric piece, place it right side down onto the zip. Now I am going to first of all line up, just see the same amount of zip is extending past there so that I know that is in the right place. So I'm going to put a pin in there so that I can then open the zip up. So I've opened the zip so that I can then line the zip tape up with the edge of our fabric. So I just put one more pin just to hold that. And then the other lining piece is going behind and right side facing up. So we're making that zip sandwich. So the lining is lining up with the outer fabric. I can see that there. And I'm taking the pin out and popping that back in. So let's just place, as you can see, the lining fabric's underneath. The zip is not lined up at the moment, but the zip is going to be lined up with our lining fabric and outer fabric. So I can put both of those in there, and then I will just continue. You can see my zip is here. I'm going to do it up once we've come along here. I'm going to push the zipper pull out of the way so that then I can line it up as I go. So, needle down. And we'll start stitching along this edge. I know those edges are lining up, so I'll take that pin out. Now, I'm just going to do the zip up. Now, just be careful that you don't get your lining caught in there as well. Very easily done. So let's just take that past. So I've done my zip up now, so I can place that down, and now just make sure the lining is all in place, and I can line up my zip tape with the edge of the lining. I pop my fingers down, or put your put some pins in, absolutely fine. But I'm just lining that top edge up, and I'll stitch to where my finger is. And then I'm going to just line that. And I can also check that my lining fabric lines up at the other end here as well. So that is all lining up beautifully. And we can stitch across there. And then my outer lines up there. So it does actually work really well, that method that I was just showing you. So having done that, I'm going to pull that piece back, give that a little nail press so we've revealed our zip, and then also I'm going to pull my lining fabric. Let's just flip that over. I'll pull my lining fabric up, and we can nail press or finger press along here as well. But as always, an iron is so much better to be able to just pull that back and press it along there. Could have used my roller, except it's not to hand. So I just nail press that all the way along. Let's just see if there's any more comments. Oh, there's Patricia, hello, and Sandra. Okay, and Jack, what's Jack doing? Nodded off. Oh, Jack. Oh, I haven't today. Somebody's asking what are we doing? We're doing a banana slouch bag. So easy so far. So let's flip it to the other side. And what we're going to do, if you've pressed it, all well and good. If you haven't, and you've done it like myself, just make sure that you're pulling the lining fabric away from the zip here. So, and if you can get these lining and outer fabric curve to line up, even better. So let's go across here and do our top stitching. So I'll do the first little bit, and then I've got my hand at the left, pulling the lining fabric away, pulling it away, and I've got my hand splayed over the top, making sure that is open as well. There we go, so that's all lining up. And then as we go across here, we can go the whole way across, and we are done. Okay, so here we have our zip and our lining fabric underneath. So the next thing we're going to do is, well, we are going to open our zip in a minute, but not quite yet. We're going to put our right sides of the outer fabric together, and we are going to bring our lining fabrics together as well. So you've got outer fabric and lining fabric, just the usual really. And then I'm going to put some pins in here. So if we line up where the zip comes together here, and we're going to put a pin 1/2 inch away from where they align. Okay, so what we would normally do, we would just stitch, we'll leave a gap in the lining, but we would stitch all the way around over the zip. We're not going to stitch over the zip this time. We're leaving that open by 1/2 inch. We're going to do the same actually on the other side. Now I will be opening the zip in a moment, but we'll put a pin just there as a reminder. So we're leaving that bit open, and we're going to go to the opposite side and we'll do exactly the same. So just line those edges up, just lining where the zip's there. It doesn't matter which way you press the zip because it's going to be open anyway. So again, pin 1/2 inch or so away, not more than that, and then 1/2 inch to the other side, and we'll pop that one just there. Then I would go all the way around here just to make sure, and I do put pins or binding clips around here because we want these edges to line up perfectly as well. So let's just have a look here. So there we go. We'll pop that one on there. So I'm lining up the outer fabric, not my fusible fleece was a little bit less in some places, but I'm lining the fabric. So that's all popped around there. And then similarly here, we can put binding clips or pins. So we'll put the odd binding clip here, but I will put pins or mark. There we go. Let's just pull those out to line them up. And we're going to leave a gap in this bottom edge here. So roughly really below where the pocket is. Okay, so there's a pin and there. So where our pocket marking is here, we'll leave a gap about that distance there. And then I'll just put another clip at this other side here just to hold that together. So if we start with the lining, it doesn't matter which you start with, but start from 1/2 inch away from where the zip is. So just about there. And what I would do is I would reverse as well. So just to make that nice and stable. And then we can take that out and we'll come round to where we're going to leave our gap. So just reverse at the end there. And then we'll move over to the other side and reverse there. And then carry on around here. And we know we've got our pin here to say where to stop stitching. So 1/2 inch away from where that zip edge is. And then we're going to start 1/2 inch past the zip on the other side. So reverse again there. Take that clip out. And whiz all the way around here. And it's a lovely long curve. There we are. And we're coming up to that pin. So we'll just reverse there. And there we have sewn that all together. Okay, let's take these pins out of the way. Now, did I undo my zip? I don't think I did. That is typical. So my hand is going in here. I reckon I forgot. So which end is my zip pull? Which end is my zip pull? Is it just there? I think I'm just feeling it. Yes, it is. So let me see. Because I've left that little opening here, I'm hoping that I can push the zip back. But I didn't. What we're thinking about, I must change my bobbin. I forgot. Oh, that's going back a little bit. Oh, yes. I think that's going back. I might get my hand in here now so that I can grab hold of that zipper pull. Oops, no. Oh, Trisha, you are just unbelievable. Let's see. There's the zipper pull. You need to grab hold. Well, let's pull it through here. You need to grab hold of the pull rather than try to push it back the other way. Oh, I tell you what we'll do. We'll turn it to this side. So let's try and pull this through here and see if I can move my zipper. I've seen other people manage to do it, so why shouldn't I? So I think I'm at the side now where, so there is my zipper pull, which should have been opened. There we go. Oh, that's better. So we can, well, it went a little bit. So let's see, just pull that open and see if I can push that back. Oh, you're going to be awkward, aren't you? So let's pull it out a little bit there. That's it. Where there's a will, there's a way. Okay. So now I can get my hand in there and not pull it back. Okay. There we go. There we are. Little by little, little by little. Okay, so we could pull it the whole way through now, couldn't we? Right. So I'm pulling that to the right side and pulling that through so that I can open the zip. There we are. There we are. And the aim of that little hole is so that we have that zip tape pulling through. But before we do all of that, what I'm just going to do is put my hand in that gap and push out the edge of the bag. There we are. So we've got a nice curve there. And then also I'm going to close the gap in the lining. So again, iron if you like to press this back, or just fold yourself 1/4 inch because it is a slight curve. Oh, my threads come out because of the wind. My machine has unthreaded again. So there's one side, whoops. And then on the other side, the other part of the seam, we can nail press that as well. There we are. And then those will just meet really nicely to give ourselves a good, nice seam. There we are. So I will again put some pins in here. There we are. Just line that up and easy peasy. Right. We're just there. And that should just pull together. There we go. Just so that we've got a nice closure at the bottom of the bag. There we are. So let's just pop that under the machine. Once I have rethreaded, so it'll only be a second time, underneath and through. Okay, so nice and close to the edge, just to close the gap in the bottom, taking our pins out just before we get to it. There we go, and around past that last pin, and just 2 or 3 stitches past. There we are, past where we where the seam is already joined. So let's just make sure that always pull the lining apart, make sure there's no holes in there. That is fine. So now we can tuck this into our outer bag and just push your hands around the inside. Oh, let's just open this zip a little bit more. So this is where at this end, once we've opened our zip, we can push those tail ends through the hole, which is what we want to do. So here we go. So that little gap we left at each side, I'm just pulling that through, and there we have the tails. Okay, so there are the tails. And then we can just push our fingers in there, and you can see how nicely the lining fits. and then the tails have come out at this end anyway. So if we just zip up along here, and then what we're going to do is we are going to flatten. So just flatten like that. So you've got your zip in the middle and you're making a little triangle here. So what I would do, so you've got your, the ends of the zip hanging out there. So then if you just pull the zip back, no, it won't unzip now, there we are, pull the zip back, and we can put a pin in there just to hold that together. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stitch across there just to hold that, just a belts and braces thing, but we'll probably trim that off anyway. But that's just holding it together. And if you want to take those two little metal pieces out, absolutely fine too. And then we go to the other side of the bag and we do exactly the same. So just pull that apart. The end of our zip, which I actually stitched it across, didn't I? So we could take that stitch out there because we don't want that to cross. And so also, there we are, just, oops, don't want to pull that too far either. That's, we're going to clip off, but just pull that so we've got that triangle and the zip extending outside there. So again, we can just stitch across there or put a pin, but I'm just going to stitch across just to hold that. Whoops. So I'm just going to stitch so quite close to the end of the little triangle, because we're then going to trim off. So I'm just going to cut that part off there, and we're going to do the same up here. So I'll just trim that a little bit off. Now just make sure we're not going to be stitching down it, we're going to be stitching roughly where my pin is here. So what we do need to do now, I'm going to set that aside for just a moment because we need to find our tab pieces. So we've got two of these, and at the longest end, so not the diagonal sides, but the long end, we're going to fold those back. So if you put the wrong side up, we're just going to fold that back about 1/4 inch. Okay. And then the same here to the wrong side. So there's one. And I am just going to give it a press in a moment when the iron heats up. So you want to press them back the same amount so they will match once we pop them together. Okay, so there is one that we've put to the wrong side. So we want 2 pairs of these because one is going to go on each end. So there's 1 pair there, and we're going to do exactly the same with the other 2. So we'll just give that a little press there. I want 2, and the same with the other one. If you've got a roller, you could use a seam roller as well. There we are. So we have got 2 pairs there. So working one at a time, we're going to take our strap, and if you want to trim that off straight. So there is our, and we're going to put our, let me put it, yes, I'll put it that way. So the other thing I like to do, you can see where I folded it back, I've got some little bits hanging out there. And so I'm just going to trim those off, just so that those little bits aren't poking out. So with my, where are we? With my tumbler block, really, it is. I'm now going to put, let's put those out of the way. I'm going to put my strap, I'm going to centre it at that top edge, at that short edge. And what you should have is around about 1/4 inch at each side. So I'm putting it down onto the short edge, and there's 1/4 of an inch each side there. So I might even, just to keep that straight, let's just put a pin down there just to hold that in place. Then I'm going to take another piece and I'm going to line that up. Okay, so that should now line up beautifully. So I'm going to take the pin out and put it in again. So what you can see is you've got 2 tumbler pieces with the strap in between. So we're going to start at the folded back part, that 1/4 inch we folded back. Make sure that lines up, and we're going to reverse when we start, and we're going to go up to the top to 1/4 of an inch from the edge. Then we're going to pivot, and we're going to go across that top edge, which is enclosing, which is trapping our handle, and we're going to 1/4 of an inch the other side, and then we're going to come back. Just feel that you've gone past the strap, and then we're going to come back down the other side, making sure those edges meet at the bottom as well. So, whoops, let's just get not my seam ripper. There we are, that's matching now. Just push, and then reverse. Okay, so I'm just going to trim off at the top there, those 2 corners, just so that we get a little bit more of a point. And then I'm going to pull this back. I'm just going to trim that little bit of thread, pull this back, pull on the handle, and what we have, there we are. I'm just going to see if there's the tiniest bit at each side just to push out, but then we have our little tab end on the end of our strap. So let's just pull that out a little bit. If you want to, you can see these little bits of the seam. If you want to trim that away as well, because those tend to stick out a little bit when you don't want them to. So I'm just going to see if I can give that a press. There we go. So that is nice and neat to go on the end of those points that we made. So we're going to do exactly the same on the other end. So we've got our one. There's 2 pieces somewhere. I've flopped it, haven't I? There we are. So again, right side of the tab facing up, and center the other end of the handle of the strap. Put a pin in there just to hold it. And as I did before, I would put a pin from the other end just to keep that nice and central on the tab. And then we'll take the second piece and place that on top, line those edges up, and then we can replace that pin to hold it together, and then just make sure these bottom edges that we folded back line up as well. And then under the needle and reverse up to, whoops, that's too far, up to 1/4 of an inch from the top, and then we go across, which is when we trap the handle. More there, and then over to the other side, making sure that they line up at the bottom there, and reverse at the bottom as well. And as I said before, trim off those corners at the top, and then you can trim these back as well, which I didn't do as I did in the other one. And just trim those. You'll soon notice that they're sticking out. So we'll take that pin out, and then we'll just pull that back. And again, we'll have, there's some, there we are. Right. Okay. There we go. So as you can see again, those little bits just sit up a little bit proud. So I'm just going to those are the side seams in our pouch. So just trim those little bits off, and then they won't poke out in a moment, hopefully anyway. There we are. So let's just give that a little press as well. So we're on to the last little bit now. All we need to do is attach these to our bag. So here is our bag. Okay, here is one of the ends, and let's just trim that bit off. So there we have one of the ends. Now, I should have left my pin in there. I mean, it hasn't made any difference, but if we leave the pin in, then when we come to what we're going to do is slot this over there. Okay, so once we have that slotted in place, okay, just make sure, if you can see, that the back is level, and then we can put our pin in there just to hold it. And then all we're going to do is we're going to stitch across here. We'll start this side, across, down the side, across the top there and down. Then I do a second line across there. So let's just flatten that down, take it over to the needle, and there. And this is why I cut out those metal bits, because they will get in the way and you could quite easily stitch on them. Oops, that's my pin there. That was something bending. Okay, so I'm just stitching across slowly over the zip and then to the side. And then, as I say, I'm going to stitch along this edge of the tab and then across the top of the tab. And then I'm just going to pivot round so that I come back down this edge here. There we go. So down that edge, down to that line that we first stitched. So I'm just going to reverse 2 stitches, and then I'm going to come across again, just doing a second line, so it looks as though I've done a rectangle over there. And when I get to the other side, I'm just going to reverse. Okay, so that is nice and neat. Just want to get that little bit of thread from out there. Whoops, there we go. If I've got a sharper pair of scissors, it might help. So it just makes that nice and neat on the tab there. So all we need to do is put the other end on, but what we need to do is make sure it's not twisted. So just let it run through your fingers, and then know that this is going to go onto this end like that. So just hold that just basically, and you know that that is going to be on the right end with no twists. So once I've slotted that on, then we can take this pin out and replace it, holding the tab. And what you can do now is just double check that there's no twist. There we are. So there's no twist in your strap. So we'll do just the same thing again, just starting at one edge, and take that pin out almost straight away because it's about to bend it. So straight across there to the other side, not too close, and then pivot round so that we can stitch along this edge here, nice and slowly, so you get a nice straight line, and then across where the handle goes into the tab. One more, and then we can come down, whoops, down the other side. That's it, nice and slowly, down to that where the stitch line started, and then I just very slowly do 2 stitches backwards so that I can then make another line of stitching just below the first one we did. Oh. Right, there we are. So let's just trim off that bit of thread, flip it over and trim off the threads there. And that's given me another nice neat back and front for another bag, another banana slouch bag. Get rid of all those. There we are. So now the only thing, if you want to put a label on there, a handmade tag, I do that now. And all I did was find, let's just push that out a bit. There we go. I find the center and put our label on there. I don't know where my labels have gone. Now, what colour are we going to? Oh, I might have a gold one on there, actually. So that would look really nice on there, wouldn't it? A gold one. And what I did, I find the centre, I measure across, and I place that about 2 inches from that the zip top, and I just use, you can either hand stitch it in place, or you could machine stitch around, but I've put rivets in my, like the ones here, so the rivets will actually go the whole way through the bag, but it just holds, it's all nice and neat together. So the rivet, the back of the rivet are in here, doesn't look untoward, it's quite nice and neat. So with whatever means you have to put a tag on, you could use the stud, the pearl insertion machine that we have as well. I put pearls through these to hold it in place as well, but it just adds something that little bit extra to the bags. So I hope you have enjoyed that. What I'm going to do, I'll see if I can turn around. Let's have a look. Yes, let's. Oops, that's up. And I am here. Oops, that's a little bit high. Ow. There we go. Oh, there we are. Mess, mess, mess. Okay. Oops. There we are. Mess, mess. So, let's see. I can't see any comments anymore. Just that Janet Ball is watching, but I am here. So, there we have one. Here we have two. I've got nothing in that one. So, as soon as something in there, it gives it that that slouchy look. But it's a very, very nice colour. What could we put in there? Let's see. We could put something in there, couldn't we? Just to make it pop out just a little bit. Let me see. I've got some balls of wool here. Oh, perhaps we could use one of those. Oh, perhaps that's too big. Perhaps not. There we go. Well, perhaps it is a little bit big. One ball of... no, a little bit big. That's typical. Whoops. Oh, no, that'll go. So, you know, you can get a ball of... there we are. So when it hangs, there we are. There's plenty. There's a... It's, yeah, once you get things in there, that hangs really nice, doesn't it? So we've got one, and we have two, and our third one is just here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, lots of differing colours, but you can make yours in whatever colourway you like. So I hope you have enjoyed this particular bag of the month. Nice and easy, I think you will agree, As I say, I can't see any comments as yet, but never mind. So I'm going to leave you now. Make sure you download, print, save the PDF in the files, because as you know, it will disappear at the end of the month of August. I know we're only just beginning it, but it will then go onto the website at a cost of £6, and you don't want to be buying it when you can have it for free. So I shall be back on Thursday with another scrap project and scrap boxes with my big clear out. So, and then on Friday I have there's another project. I can't think what it is now, but if you have a look in the group, you'll be able to see exactly what we're doing on Thursday and Friday. So all I can say is thank you so much for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will see you on Thursday. So bye for now.